This session, we're going to talk a little bit more about the office visit, or meeting 2 followed by lunch. What I like to call this meeting really is it's all about the credibility building. I'm going to say it again, all about credibility building. Remember, guys, CPAs view you and I, we've said it before, as a slight step above a used car salesperson. So when we walked into their office in the first meeting, we walked in there, and the reality of the situation is they were not receptive up front to why we were there. There was doubt in their mind. They were not understanding why we were there and felt we were there most likely to try to sell them something like everyone else who's been in there before. We learned from what we do in meeting 1 that we were simply there as a professional looking to interview them to determine if they could be a good fit for our clients and if we could build a mutually beneficial relationship together. If we pass that test, they now have come to our office for our office visit. And this is where we're going to build credibility and get to a point where the CPA begins to view you as the financial advisor as a peer. So I like to say this is where the relationship building begins. This is where we start to get to a point where the trust starts. And without trust, as we all know, especially with the CPA, there will be no referrals. So when I talk about this office meeting, I like to say it's a show and tell meeting, or where the ultimate show begins. So as you see on your screen, here are some of the keys to ensure that you and your office are prepared and exactly what we're going to go through in the process. You want to make sure that you prepare your office in advance of the CPA visit, because first impressions count. Your receptionist should be prepared. Your receptionist should actually know the name of the CPA, and all of your staff members should be ready to greet that CPA and meet them and profess what it is they do for your firm. Let your team know that the CPA is visiting and share with them the purpose of the meeting. If your staff does not actually understand what's going on and the fact that this is in fact an office visit and we are there to make a good impression, they may be caught off guard. So ensure that they're well aware of it in advance and that the office is presentable. Greet and show the CPA around your office and introduce them to the entire team. Make sure that you introduce them to not just folks who work for you. I've mentioned this earlier in the training. Whether you're a sole proprietor, whether you have a large office with 15 or 20 employees working for you, if you're in a wirehouse and there are other advisors, this is impressive to the CPA. Most CPAs work in small silos. I've mentioned earlier their offices are not always as impressive as ours, so it's an opportunity to truly shine, and they are very, very impressed in meeting the other individuals within your office. In addition, you want to make sure that you discuss the purpose of the meeting. So as we're discussing the purpose of the meeting, here are things that we are going to walk the CPA through, and you can see them up on your screen. These are some examples of what I suggest. Now I'll share with you guys, there might be things that are different or proprietary to your practice that you believe would be a good idea for the CPA to see. So these are just simply things that I believe make sense to do. And it doesn't have to be limited to just what I'm pointing out, but these are things that you're going to want to walk them through in that meeting. Potentially a sample financial planning tool or deliverable. One of the things that CPAs really love about what my firm does is the comprehensive nature of our financial planning culture. So CPAs love information. Think about it for a minute. They're very analytical. They like to dot the I's and cross the T's. So when you get to be able to walk a CPA through a thick financial analysis and talk about Monte Carlo simulation and talk about different modules and inflation rates and rates of returns and what would happen if you sold a house versus not selling a house and the tax consequences of that, this is something they can really sink their teeth into. So if you do financial planning, I think it's a great idea to spend a good amount of time walking the CPA through a financial plan. I'm going to demonstrate how we do that in a cursory overview a little bit later as well. I think it's really important that the CPA understand that the entire facets of all of your business as well. A sample asset allocation or performance review deliverable. So an example here would be to show your actual CPA who's come to visit you an example of the work you've done, what a recommended portfolio might look like, to talk about things like beta coefficients, standard deviation, alpha, asset allocation models, rebalancing, all of the things that we do in our business. Treat them like a really analytical client and allow them to ask questions. One thing you never want to do is make the CPA feel as if they don't understand something. So speak to them as if they're a colleague, even though you and I might understand that they don't truly specialize in wealth management and financial planning, and they might not know what a beta or a standard deviation or inverse correlation means. As you use those words, I would say things like as you know or as you're aware. Make them feel like they're part of your team. What they're going to be doing is they're going to be subconsciously making a judgment on you and determining that in fact you are much more knowledgeable than anyone else that they've ever met. In addition, we should consider using a sample of a Morningstar of a client who's not properly allocated with what your recommended reallocation was as a comparison. So whether you use Morningstar or Thomson or some other proprietary modeling, whatever it is that you use on your desktop, show them, let them sink their teeth into it so they really get a flavor of what it would be like to be your client. You can do a tutorial of your firm's web platform. Remember guys, when you're a sole proprietor as a CPA or part of a small firm, you don't have all of the resources that you and I have available to us. As an example, if your broker-dealer has seminars available or brochures, or if you have the ability to show tax losses or print articles or how to make trades or how to see realized or unrealized gains or losses from a tax situation, any of that information is unbelievably valuable to the CPA. When we do these meetings in our office, we hear comments from CPAs like, it's unbelievable how much you have at your fingertips. How do I get that? Is there any way that I could use it? And that's a leverage point, guys. If you're a CPA, small practitioner, and you want to go out and get a brochure on estate planning, how do you get it? You order it and you pay for it. How do we get it? We go to our supply room, or we order it many times for free from our broker-dealer. So why not allow the CPA to use our brochures in their waiting area? Great way to build your awareness and to add value to the CPA. I want you to remember, one of the big things as we go through that process with the accounting firm and we go through the relationship building process, as we deepen that relationship and get to a point where we have our weekly and bi-weekly interactions, you need to take the role as a consultant and a coach and add value to the CPA. You are most likely a better business person than that CPA, and they will take your guidance if you go out and lead them in the right way. Show them how easy it is to get tax gain loss information. As an example, show them how easy it could be to download to an Excel spreadsheet. I mentioned that earlier as well, and here's what I want you to understand. One of the pet peeves that CPAs have is how difficult it is to get in touch with folks like you and I to get information regarding cost basis. It is unbelievably beneficial to the CPA when they refer a client to my firm for me to be able to hit one button and send them all of the information that they would need to do. In fact, one of the pieces in your book is a sample of a letter that we send to CPAs that puts together a tax package for all of our joint clients each year that shows all of their 1099s, their interest, their dividends, their realized short and long-term gains, along with dates purchased. So when we have these capabilities, guys, we need to let the CPA firm know that they're available and make sure that they understand that that is yet another benefit of working with our firm. I want to turn and talk a little bit about client service. Consider having the CPA go through your client service model. Show the CPA how often you see and service your clients, how you rebalance their accounts, how you send holiday cards and birthday cards and retirement gifts, etc. In addition, you should create and show the CPA a calendar of your firm's events. Utilize recent events as examples. Can include client appreciation events, educational seminars, newsletters, private dining events, things along those lines. Now, one of the things, guys, that I don't believe most advisors understand is just how systematized and process-oriented our practices are. We run really, really interesting practices that provide a very high level of service. CPAs don't understand that. They've never been invited to an advisor's office, so you really want to help them shine, or help your practice shine, I should say, and see exactly what it is you do and how you deliver on your value proposition. Now, I want to tell you a quick story when I talk about events for a minute, kind of a sidebar to the office visit, but I think it's important for you to hear it. It's a true story from a CPA firm that I still work with today. I'm going to call the accountant Jerry. And Jerry, when I had my first meeting with him, I came to his office, and Jerry had kind of this type of posture. He sat at the end of the table, his brow was lifted, and he kind of crossed his arms like this. And here's what he said to me. He said, if you're here to try to get me to refer my clients to you, you're in the wrong place, pal. And I kind of looked at him a little bit and was a little afraid of Jerry. He's a big guy. I said, that's not why I'm here at all, Jerry. And I went through my first meeting process. I interviewed Jerry to see if he can be a resource for me and my clients. I invited him to meeting 2 at my office for the office visit. And one of the things that got Jerry really excited about the process was the ability to do client appreciation events. And in the office visit, when I went through the phase that we're talking about right now, and I talked about events, and I had mentioned to Jerry that sometimes we do client appreciation events for the accounting firm where we'll organize it, we'll pay for it, and we'll speak at it. Jerry thought that was a great idea. He had recently purchased another practice and thought it would be a great way for him to introduce or meet some of the new clients that he's acquired in a social setting. So, going to make a long story short, we had about 80 or 90 of Jerry's clients to a local restaurant. Great turnout. Jerry did a great job of introducing me and himself to some of his new clients. I stood in front of the room. I made about a 20-minute presentation or so. And as I often do at the end of my presentation, I walked on over to the bar and I ordered myself a drink. And as I walked to the bar, there were about 8 or 9 of Jerry's clients who followed me to the bar. And the first client came up and said something like, I was really impressed with your presentation. I just lost my job. I have a retirement plan and I'd like to roll it over to you. Second client came over and said something like, if Jerry recommends you, you must be really good. So I'd love to work with you and see if you can take over my financial planning. You get the picture. It was a financial advisor's dream. After I got through the 8 or 9 clients that followed me to the bar, the last person on the line was Jerry. And Jerry, as I said, is a rather tall man. He's put his arm around me and he looked down at me and he said, I think I'd like to go ahead and get licensed and have you create a wealth management arm in my practice. So why do I share that story with you? When I first met Jerry, if you remember what I had mentioned, he said if I was there to get his clients, I had the wrong guy. So Jerry needed to actually see me in action, and more importantly, his clients respond to me, and what he saw was the gravy train walking out the door. So when we're actually sharing this information with CPAs, I want you to understand they're taking note, and sometimes just the mention of what you do and how you operate as a business owner will jog their memory for ideas and opportunities of how they can actually work together with you. So I want you to keep that in mind. It's, again, not always about the journey, so to speak. It's more about the marathon than it is the sprint. Moving on, I want to also talk about conducting the meeting. So when I talk about conducting the meeting itself, as we meet with the CPA, and we're going to go through this in some detail, which I think the best way to go through this exercise is to really show you what we do in this meeting. I want to actually demonstrate what the CPA will actually see and how we present to the CPA in this office visit. But some of the things that may very well happen in this meeting is you may start to already get some buy-in, right? Remember, the goal is to ultimately go to that lunch meeting as well. But from a buy-in perspective, there are certain scripts that we've developed in order to work on the transition and some of the issues that may come up in the meeting. So as you can see on your screen right now, there are 3 different scripts that I believe may come up. We talked earlier in meeting 1 about the fiduciary responsibility script, so I'm not going to demonstrate that again, but that may be, again, the opportune time to deliver that script. And there's also something that I call the opportunity and responsibility script. This is almost always going to happen in meeting 2. It will either happen in the office visit or during the lunch meeting. And before we demonstrate the live office visit in a couple of moments, what I'd like to do is just demonstrate the opportunity and responsibility script for you quickly. So as you can see on your screen, the opportunity responsibility script is basically another takeaway that I believe frames things out in a great way. So I'm going to read it to you. Now, Ken, this relationship is both a huge opportunity and also a big responsibility. It's a huge opportunity because with the relationships you have with your clients, I'm sure that 95% of them would meet with me if you suggested they do so. Obviously, that's a big opportunity for you and I to integrate financial planning into your tax practice. I also want you to understand that it's also a big responsibility for you. What I mean when I say that is if you were to choose to refer me to your clients, they will hold you responsible if I don't treat them the way they expect to be treated. I understand that, and I want you to know I would like you to do as much due diligence on my firm as you feel is necessary, so that you feel comfortable with working with us, with us working with your clients. At the end of the day, I view you as my client, and my goal is always to make you look good to all of your clients. So I hope you guys find that as powerful as I do. It's yet another takeaway. And this again is as the CPA is starting to sign buy signs, and when you're in this office visit talking about what you do and how you operate and how you work, CPAs are going to start to consider coming up with names to refer you, or at least saying, I have a client who would be perfect for this. Right, and I want you to keep these things in mind, guys. Look at your screen. These are other ideas of things that we could talk about. Outside of the financial planning and the Morningstar, we can go into detail about things like covered calls. If you happen to deal with hedge funds, how about talking about hedge funds? If you believe that there's something better or different about your practice, perhaps you're a great stock picker, or perhaps you believe in a particular manager, or some type of investment that is different for some reason. If that's what you believe in, I'm a big ETF guy, so I'll talk about ETF guys and I'll talk about costs. And I educate the CPA as an example about SAI fees, statements of additional information, which very few advisors, let alone CPAs, even know about. So when you give these little nuggets that are your specialty and areas that differentiate you, here's what happens. It creates dialogue and it creates buy-in from the CPA's perspective. And that's what's really important, is you want them to really get a flavor in this meeting of what it's like to be your client. Show them your events, show them the team brochure, walk them around, all of the things that we spoke about. I want them to walk out of this meeting saying, wow, this particular financial planning practice is like nothing I've ever seen, and my clients would be lucky to work with a firm like this. Hopefully what you can see, guys, is it's really easy. It's simply showing the accounting firm or the CPA exactly what you do. This is something we all do every day by sharing with our prospective clients what we do and how we operate. And hopefully you can see at this point where as that CPA is walking out of that meeting, and that's where we are in the process right now, they're walking out of that meeting feeling that you are really something special and that you're better and different than their competition. And that is something that you and I know they've never gone through with a financial advisor before. So they're walking into lunch right now feeling very enthused, feeling as if they could be on to something really good and getting on that yes train. So I want you to be conscious of the fact that their conservative nature of a CPA is going to now start to shine through. So they're excited. They may put their own foot in their mouth. And what I mean when I say that, they may start to get excited about the relationship, and this is our opportunity to really bring them down with some of these takeaways, right? So I demonstrated the script don't put the cart before the horse. I'm going to put it back up on the screen for a minute. I won't demonstrate it again because you've already heard it, but as I've said a few times now, this might be the time to use this particular script over lunch as the CPA starts to think of clients and starts to get on that excited train, if you will, to ultimately start to think of some clients that could be potential benefits for your practice. So with that, we're leaving the office now. We're driving, hopefully, in your Camry, not your Lamborghini, to lunch at Applebee's or the diner. And the purpose of this meeting, as you can see on your screen, is really, really simple, guys. Like I said, the KISS principle. While we're at lunch, the purpose of this meeting is very simply to continue to build rapport as well as to solicit feedback on your operation. I'm going to say it again. The real purpose of this meeting, guys, break bread, deepen the relationship, and ask the question, so what did you think? And listen and ask for more and more feedback. Let them dig themselves deeper and deeper into telling you all of the good things. If they're not telling you enough, ask specifics. So what did you think about my financial planning process? What did you think about my client service model? What did you think about our portfolio management tool? The access to tax information. When we called our 1-800 consulting services, we were impressed by those folks and how quickly they responded. So again, hopefully they volunteer it. If they don't, it's your job to extract it out. Hopefully that makes some sense. So as we're at lunch, we want to also ensure, guys, that sometimes if the CPA is not able to go to lunch with you right after this meeting, look, it's the real world. It doesn't always happen that way. I'd still like you to break bread at some point between that lunch meeting and your next third meeting. I think it's really important that at some point in between you break bread, because remember, in our process, you haven't done that yet. You've gone to their office, they've visited your office. Now it's ultimately time to break bread. As you're getting the CPA's feedback, I want you to also share with the CPA how excited you are. I want you to say something like, I think it sounds like a really good fit for both of our firms. Now, why do I want you to say that? Again, it's getting them on the yes train. They're going to say something like, me too. I could already see clients that could benefit from what you do, or I see good things in our future, or I want to continue to meet. All we're trying to do right now, guys, is get their commitment to move forward and commit to meet again. And if they are at this point beginning to feel excited by it and you sense that, we want to talk about the benefits and the necessity of meeting regularly, that weekly and bi-weekly interaction. So I want to help you now. At this point, the lunch is real easy, right? We've open probe, we've had good dialogue. What's most important about this lunch meeting, and as I said earlier, this is where advisors get stuck sometimes, is this particular step, which is where we're framing out what the relationship needs to look like going forward. So take a look at the script on your screen. I'm going to read it to you. This is one of the most important scripts that you need to deliver, because it actually takes this relationship now from a budding relationship to one of action and starting to create a true business relationship without the CPA realizing what he or she is doing. So take a look at the script. I call it setting the table for meeting 3. And here's what we say. Ken, thank you for your feedback. I'm glad you enjoyed checking out my operation. Based on the positive comments you had, it sounds as if you think I may be able to be a resource to your clients to help them achieve some of their financial goals. I write, get confirmation. Clearly, we both should still do a little more due diligence, takeaway, before we create a formal alliance. But I can share with you that I am very excited, and I think this is an unbelievably good fit for you and I. One of the things that I've learned running my own business for a number of years is that in order to make any business relationship work, the most important thing to do is consistently meet with your business partner and start with the end goal in mind. to that point, I wanted to suggest that you and I agree to do the following. Now guys, I'm going to pause there for one quick second, and then I'll go back to the script. Here's what's really important at this very point in time. You are now establishing yourself as a leader. You are letting the CPA know that it's important that we do these two things. Meet on a regular basis and know what the end in mind is. And you have a system and a process to help define those things. Now here's why I share that. Guys, we've all had the experience that we've met with a CPA or another professional, we've exchanged business cards, and quite frankly, never spoke or heard from them again. Have we not? I've got a Rolodex full of business cards in my Rolodex from years ago, from folks I've met. We agreed to do business together, and I wouldn't know them if they were sitting in my lobby right now. So any professional has experienced that as well, I'm sure you have, and is going to truly appreciate that we want to do things differently, meet regularly, and figure out what the end of mind is. Okay, so you already established yourself as in control and leading this relationship. Really important. We have a plan. They will follow. Let's continue to the script. So number one is we're going to set up a regular time each week for 30 minutes where you and I can meet in order to make sure our relationship is moving in the right direction. I will work around your schedule. And number two, we should begin to discuss what the end in mind is. I'd like to have a follow-up meeting with you next week to discuss potential ways you and I can create our business relationship. As I said, I really believe we are onto something here and just want to make sure that you are seeing the same opportunity as I am. Get feedback and set the next appointment. So why do I have that last little bullet point there? Meaning to make sure that the CPA is seeing the same thing as I am, because I want to hear them say back to me, yes, John, me too. Yep, I see the same opportunity. Or, well, John, let's not move too quickly. I need to now take my reference from them and determine which direction I need to go in my next meeting. If they're very excited and say, me too, John, I'm going to take it in a certain direction. We'll talk about that in meeting 3. If they say, well, I'm not exactly sure, but I'll meet again, John, we have to take it in a little bit of a softer direction. And I have 2 scripts that will help us transition into that. But this script that you see back on your screen right now, that transition script, also in your training manual, really, really important, and often a step that advisors skip. Don't skip it. It sets the frame. It begins to show your leadership skills and that you're in essence in charge. So that completes the lunch meeting, guys. Every time we end the meeting, the goal is to set the next meeting a week out, 2 weeks out at the latest. So we should now be establishing our next meeting to go through meeting 3, assuming the CPA is interested in doing that. Meeting 3 on, I would suggest you go to them. Doesn't need to be at lunch. Probably shouldn't be at your office. We want to make it as convenient as possible. If they'd like to come to your office, that's fine. But I would suggest that you go to them because we want to stack the odds in our favor for these meetings to confirm and stick and have the ability to go through the 3rd meeting. So hopefully right now you're seeing how easy this is. We're going to start how to go through our 3rd meeting next and how to really get the process started and get the CPA to start seeing the vision of where we go with meeting 3, because subconsciously where they're going now, guys, is they're going to leave that meeting, and I want you to remember that. We're going to leave lunch saying, well, I'm excited, but I didn't expect this to happen, and their radar is going to start to go up, and they're excited, they see value, they understand they can fulfill their fiduciary responsibility. We've done a great job up to this point, but it's still natural for them in the sales process, and I've seen it over and over, for them to be looking for a way not to do it. Doubt's going to seep in, and they're going to wonder whether or not this will work for them. Our 3rd meeting is really designed to help show them the how to make it work. So we'll be right back with meeting 3, and I think you're going to get a lot out of it.